Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started then. Welcome to our session on taking online classes. My name is Caroline, and I'm an instructional technologist here at Midway University, and I'm just going to give you some information about taking online courses and being prepared for them, and show you some resources that you might use as an online student here. And I am going to be going to this website, midway.libguides.com/TLR/student general, and there'll be a handout at the end of the session that provides you with that link and some other ones that might be interesting to you. So let's go ahead and get started and go over to that website. The first thing that we see when we go to this website in general is that this is one of our LibGuides, and if you for all of our LibGuides look pretty much the same. If you look over here on the left-hand side, you'll always see links to more pages. So you can just kind of click anywhere along here and you can see anything you want. And don't hesitate to click on stuff. Just because that says faculty research, if you're a student, that doesn't mean you can't click on it. Click on it if you want to, and see what there might be something there that's interesting to you too. But since this is aimed primarily at students, I'm going to go ahead and focus mainly on the student resources. And I'm actually going to start on this link right here, which is the difference between online courses and traditional college courses. Generally speaking, this first point here says that online courses can either consist of synchronous activities or asynchronous activities. Well, those are big fancy words that basically mean activities that you do synchronously together all at one time, or asynchronously, activities where maybe one student does it at one time, another student does it at another time, another student does it at another time. So synchronous activities would be like if all the students are together in a chat room. Asynchronous activities would be like if the students are making individual posts into a forum where you can make your post anytime you want to. The fact is that in most of our online courses here at Midway, most activities are asynchronous. That means that you can get online and do your activities whenever you want to. You don't have to wait for the professor to assign a particular time for you to be online. You do have to watch your activities list for the week, though, because some professors do say, okay, we're all going to meet online in the chat room or some other specified location at a particular time. So you need to be aware of that. So what sorts of things are you going to be seeing and doing in an online course? What are some of the skills that you need in an online course? In online courses, there's usually no lecture. So sometimes a professor will videotape their lecture of a face-to-face class and then put that videotape online for you, or else they'll put videos of other relevant things that they want you to watch, like demonstrations or like for an art class, maybe something visual. But most of the assignments in an online class are going to be readings. So you have to be in order to be successful in an online class, you have to be a really good reader. You have to be able to look at your reading assignment, go through it, figure out on your own what are the important points, take notes, really focus yourself, and dig the information out yourself. Another important skill in an online class are writing skills. In class, most of the time, if there's a discussion, if you're kind of the student who is really talkative and active in class, then you can be the one that always dominates a discussion. Or maybe if you're not that person, you can be the person that sits back and listens to the discussion and then contributes after they've had time to think and process. But there's no real way to do that in an online course. Most of the time, your participation is going to be in writing. So in order to be a successful online student, you have to develop really good writing skills so that you can contribute to the discussion forums, so that you can contribute to the chat room, so that you can contribute to the wiki if the professor has asked you guys to do a wiki or a blog or something like that. Now there's an advantage to that, because if you're in class and you've got to speak out, boom, 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 real fast, you don't really get much time to think. But when you're online, you have more time to think and come up with an intelligent answer. And if you don't really know what it is the professor wants, you have time maybe to Google some more thoughts on that subject so that you can get a really good, intelligent, full credit response. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Probably the most important skill that you've got to have for online learning is digital literacy. Digital literacy means a lot of things, but for our context, it means if you're going to succeed in an online course, you have to know how to turn on your computer. That's not a joke. A lot of students take online classes and they don't even own a computer. So you've got to know how to turn on your computer, use your mouse, use your keyboard, use the internet. If I say to you, use Firefox instead of Internet Explorer, you've got to know what Firefox versus Internet Explorer is. If I say to you, type this in Word, well, you've got to know what Word is. If I say to you, you need to be able to email, you need to be able to use a chat room, things like that, you've got to have some clue what those things are, or else you've got to be resourceful enough to get online and learn how to use a chat room, learn how to use a wiki, those types of things if your professor has asked you to do things that you've never known how to do. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. Some things to be aware of when you're taking an online course. Online feedback can be a lot slower than face-to-face. When you're in an online course with a professor, you know you're going to meet that professor on Mondays and Wednesdays, or else on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can walk up to that professor in that guaranteed face-to-face time and say, hey, I was doing this reading. I have no clue what it is you want me to do with this. What is it that I'm supposed to be getting out of this? You don't have that in an online class. So you have got to have the gumption to get into the questions forum, wherever the professor has put that, and write your questions yourself. And that is, in my experience, and I've been teaching online since 1995, in my experience, what separates somebody who's going to succeed in an online class and somebody who's not is the person who has the courage to say, hey, I didn't understand this. Because that person is usually asking the same question, just like in the face-to-face class where you ask the question and everybody else is like, oh, thank God somebody asked that. Online is even more so. So have the gumption to get in there and ask the questions. Everybody else has got them. Question.
Now, for asking the questions, is that the raise your hand feature?
I'm actually going to show you that in a little bit. The question, in case you couldn't hear it, was for asking questions, are we supposed to use the raise your hand feature in Moodle? In a minute, we're going to go into Moodle, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you should be aware of in Moodle, and that's definitely one of them. But the short answer to that question is, if the professor has left that in their course, then yes, that is probably an appropriate place to ask questions. But we'll get into more detail about that later. Good question, because it's really, really important to be willing to ask those questions. So you may be listening to all of this and saying, wow, it's really all on me when I'm in an online course. And the fact is, that's true. So you might be thinking to yourself, why would I take an online course then? Why wouldn't I just come to the university and take a face-to-face class? Well, the fact is that online courses are really great experiences because these things that I was talking about, the ability to read and get information on your own, the ability to write really well, digital literacy, these are the things that employers want. When you go out and look for a job, the number one complaint of employers these days is colleges didn't get students prepared to think for themselves. Well, online classes do get you prepared to think for yourselves because the onus of learning is on you. You've got to read critically. You've got to write well. You've got to be digitally literate, and that's what employers want. So you're really doing yourself a favor by taking this on now in an online course, as opposed to struggling with it and not succeeding in your first job. So there are advantages of this. Having said all of that, how would you know whether online learning is right for you? At the bottom of this page, we have a link that asks you, is online learning right for me? We also have a link over here. Remember, you can always go to this box, this blue box that's at the top of these LibGuides, and go to that link here. And this takes us to 2 quizzes that other universities have put together and that we're using with permission here because they're so great, that will let you know whether online learning is probably a good idea for you. If you click on that, it's going to open in a new page, and it'll give you a little quiz that asks you questions to let you know whether online learning would be a good idea for you. So like, for example, my technology access is best described as I have a computer at home with internet access and I have my own email account, or I have regular access to a computer with internet access. What's the difference there? Regular access, and I have my own email account, or I don't have a computer or email access. So obviously they want you in this assessment to be answering the top thing. You should probably have your own computer, not no computer. And most of the questions here are more useful than that. Like, for example, my technology skills are very good. I can use email, web browsers, word processing. I can download files, and I can create attachments. You truly do need to be able to answer yes to all those things in order to succeed in an online class, because your professor is going to ask you to attach things to emails or to get attachments from things that they've sent. And if these are things that challenge you, probably not the best mode of learning for you. So we do encourage folks who are considering taking online classes to use probably, honestly, both of these little tests to decide whether it's a good plan for them, because they're both a little bit different and they'll give you different ideas about what might be important. Okay, so let's assume at this point in the semester, because we are in week 4, that you've decided to take some online courses. So what are your resources? Where do you find your resources as an online student here at Midway University? Right here on this guide, we have a link to the Online Learning Handbook. This handbook is your friend when you're taking online courses here at Midway. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It opens up. And some of the stuff that's in it goes over what I've talked about. It tells you that we have the library, which is where you are right now, so you know that, for help. Come on, go down. It tells you some of the things that you need to be successful. It gives you the technical requirements that we have currently for Moodle. But now getting into the more important stuff, it gives you a link to, what if I'm having technical problems with Moodle? Where do I go? What if I can't log on to Moodle all of a sudden? Where do I go? What if I need other technical help? Where do I go? And it also gives you the contacts of the people in the instructional technology department where you can get individual help. You can contact one of us. So those are all useful things. We also give you this sheet, which we recommend that you do with all of your online professors, to fill out this sheet with their name, their telephone number, and their email, so that you have, from their syllabus, so that you have that at a glance. more than anything else, because what happens if your laptop dies? And you know how you always save your username and password on your laptop? Well, what if your laptop dies and all of a sudden you can't get into Moodle? If you have this printed out, then you have, without having to go digging through for their syllabus, you have a way to contact them to let them know, oh gosh, I'm having trouble with my laptop, but this is when I expect to have it fixed, so I'll be in the course the next time at this date. Is there anything I should do in the meantime? If you have this printed out, then you're not completely cut off if something technological happens to you. So we recommend that. The student rights and responsibilities for online classes are in this handout. Some important things about emailing with your instructor, the most important one being whenever you email with your instructor, your online instructors, use your Midway account. Instructors are not required to respond to emails from like a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or whatever, and many won't, because it exposes our Midway systems to possible spam and viruses and so forth. Whereas if you use your Midway account, then we filter all of that out. So if you're trying to communicate with your professors and you're not getting a response, check to make sure you're sending from your midway.edu email address, because they may not respond to other ones. They're technically not supposed to. Another resource that we put in the online handbook is a time management chart. Time management is the key with online courses. It's really easy to lose track of assignments. So we have this sample chart in here and a link where you can download the template to that chart right there. We recommend that each week you write out for each class, I need to do this, this, and this. And even estimate how much time should this take, especially if the professor tells you, and when it's due, so that you don't lose track of any of your assignments. Obviously, Moodle has that little assignments block, which we'll look at in a minute, but sometimes if you have this written out on paper, it really helps you. Okay, and then also in this are the most important basic instructions for how to do everything that most professors require you to do in Moodle. So how to work in a discussion forum, how to submit an assignment, how to check to see whether you got assignment feedback. That's the gap that most students have. I know a lot of my students in my online course, I always type out feedback for every test. And then I get questions from my students, why did I miss this question? Well, it's in the feedback. It's really important to look at the feedback your instructors have given you, because if you don't, oftentimes you'll miss that same thing then on the midterm, or continue to do that same sort of thing wrong. So there are instructions on how to check assignment feedback. Instructions on how to download files from Moodle, how to take a quiz or an exam before the time comes to take it and you're desperate. And then lastly, we have in here places where you can go for technical support or other types of support, like getting help writing or getting help using our databases and so forth. So that online learning handbook is a really, really great resource and kind of a go-to feature for you to be aware of. Now, let's go ahead over to Moodle and just get a quick tour and see how it works. The number one question that I get as an instructional technologist here at the beginning of the semester from students is, how the heck am I supposed to get onto Moodle anyway? Where are my online classes? It's not always necessarily clear amongst the enormous quantity of emails you get at the beginning of the semester, which email contains your information on how to get onto online classes. So I'm going to show you that. I personally think the best way to get onto your Moodle classes, especially for the first time, is to go to our website and then click on this link right here, Midway Portal. That takes me over to the portal where I can log in. Whenever you log in at Midway, your login is the same for everything. You use the same login for Moodle, My Midway, email, everything. So if you can get into one thing, you can get into everything else. It's the same for your wireless access if you're on campus, if you're using the computers in the library on campus, same login. The only trick I tell people is, you'll see how I have here kmanny at midway.edu. If you're trying to log on to something and you've put in the at midway.edu and it tells you that you're wrong, try it without. Maybe it's that way. But it's always either your username or your username at midway.edu. And the same password for everything. So once you're into My Midway, you will see over on the left-hand side all your important bookmarks right here. This is one-stop shopping for students. Everything you'll ever need in your Midway life is right here. Here's a link to your email. Here is a link to Moodle. Here is a link to WebAdvisor, where you can do things like find out what books are required for your classes. Here's a link for faculty and staff directory if you're trying to figure out how do I get in touch with my professor, etc., etc. So there's all the important links here. I'm going to go ahead and open up Moodle. And I'm going to open it in a new tab here because I want to come back to some of those links. Now, as I said, to log in, you use the same login that you use for your email to get into My Midway everything. And then you learn a little patience as it logs in. And what you will see here when you log in is My Courses. So I have here under My Courses, whoops, right here, the course that, since I'm a teacher here and not a student, I have the course that I'm teaching. You would have all the courses that have an online component for you listed there. What I want to point out to you is over here in the left-hand frame, that's your friend. Do you need help with Moodle? Do you not know how to do something? If you click on that, that takes you over to our tutorials on Moodle. How do you log in? How do you use the forums? These are full-length tutorials. How do you use the forums? How do you work with assignments? How do you take a quiz? If you click on any of those, it will open up a PDF file that explains to you how to do things with pictures. So you can just look for this on the screen and follow the instructions. So they're pretty self-explanatory. They're pretty useful. Now, suppose you've looked at that and it's still not working for you, or else you're having some sort of technical problem. If you click right here, then you have our full list of contact information for getting help with anything technical related in your Midway life. If you need help with your email, with Moodle, with My Midway, here's where you can, for example, if you go to Password Central, here's where you can log in to change your password, even if you've completely forgotten it. Here's where you can change it, also. That's a link without where you have to sign up and do other things. Here's where you can get help with XProctor if your professors want you to use XProctor for exams. Here's another link to those tutorials. Here is the link. If you didn't know, just because you're a student here at Midway University, you have access to Office 365. So if your professor is telling you you have to type this paper in Word, but you don't own a copy of Word, yes, you do. You own a copy of Word just because you're a student here at Midway. You've already paid for it. It's part of your tuition. If you go to the link that's right here, you can install Office, which would include Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Publisher on up to 4 personal devices. And that install will be good for you the entire time you're a student here. So either on a Mac or on a PC for free. And then at the bottom, it has a place where you can click here during work hours to get help, or click here after work hours to get help. So 24/7, 365. If you need help on Thanksgiving Day, you'll be able to get it right there. Okay? Now, once you're in your Moodle course and you click on it, all Moodle courses will start out with a certain template. It's very important for you to look at everything in this template. When it says start here, start there. That'll be usually some basic course information. This is a document on netiquette. In other words, don't type your forum posts in bold, capital, red letters because that's the equivalent of screaming and it's rude. You know, drive your classmates crazy. This is your introduction to the professor and course. That will be in every class you take. It'll have the professor's contact information. It's very important. This is going to be, the news forum is going to be in every course you take. It's very important. It's where your professor will put important news that's for the entire class. Like, for example, in my class, I have added discussions about, like this week's discussion is warning, heavier workload this week because it's midterms and they've got a lot of stuff to do. You should always check your news forum at least once a day to make sure your professor hasn't put anything in there that's important. There's a code of ethics which you must submit as a student. There's information about academic resources. Here is a question and answer forum. This is in most courses. Some professors take it out. We put it in automatically, but some professors take it out. But this is a place where you can ask information about the course in general. Like if there's no specific forum for your course paper, you might put a question in there and say, for the paper, do we need to use APA or MLA style guideline? And that's a good place for you to ask questions that everybody can see. Also, you will have, every course will have the syllabus in this opening forum. Now, for my class, I've put some additional links. Whatever additional links are in there, you need to go ahead and look at all of them. And then as you go through your course for the semester, each week will have a new topic. So, and it will be divided up into activities that you're required to do. Some professors put in things that you're recommended to do, but that you don't have to. You might have video lectures or written lectures. You should obviously do those. And then you might have an assignment that you need to turn in. This symbol right here means it's an assignment. Or you might have a forum that you need to participate in. That symbol there means that it's a forum. You'll notice as you scroll down on the left-hand side, underneath the useful links block, you will have a calendar. You'll have latest news, anything that the professor has posted in that news forum. And you'll also have upcoming events, things that are due. So that will help you keep track of things that are important in your course as well. And many professors leave this block right here on the right-hand side, the activities block, available, and you can click on that to see what assignments, forums, and quizzes and so forth are available also. Okay, so that's what I had to show you. I'm going to give everybody as a handout this paper, which includes important links and important contacts that you may need. And that is going to be available in the Student Success Center if you're watching this online. But at this point, I'll go ahead and open this up to any specific questions that you might have had on your courses for the folks that are watching.
I actually don't have any questions, honestly.
Okay.
When a student does a discussion thread or a post, how do they know that their post has successfully been applied to the thread and that they've successfully responded to the allotted amount of posts that the professor has required?
Okay, that's a very good question. The question, in case you couldn't hear it, is when you're working with forums, a lot of professors, most professors online, require you to take part in a weekly forum discussion. And you are usually required to post one thoughtful answer yourself and then respond to usually at least one, but often as many as 2 or 3 other people's responses. And the question is, how do you know that you've actually successfully completed that activity? Depending on where the professor has put the forum, like for example, my forum for my class, I have a separate one for each week, and most professors do that just for organizational purposes. A student would go into that forum, and then you can see the topics that have already been added by other students. You just click on Add a New Discussion Topic and type in what you want into the box that comes up. Often professors will specify what they want you to put in as the subject, so always read your assignment carefully and use the right subject. And you type your message here, and then when you're done, you click Post to Forum. And you know that it worked because your submission shows up. You can see it. You can go back there and see your name as started by. Now, the exceptions to that would be some professors hold posts until a certain date or until everybody has posted, because they want people. They don't want people to feel like, oh, well, somebody already posted that idea, so I can't use that. I have to come up with something different. If you're the last person that posts, then you might really struggle. So you may not necessarily see it immediately, but you will see it. And when you click that Submit Post button, you get a little feedback that says your post has been submitted. And then if the professor has a time limit on it, it'll say you will see your post on such and such date, or your post will be available on such and such time. So that's how you know that you've done your own post successfully. Now, the trick that a lot of students fall down on is then the professor says respond to at least 2 other people's posts. There is no way in Moodle to tell how many times you've responded. You just have to keep track of that yourself. Now, what I always encourage students to do, usually the first person's post has 50,000 responses and the last poor person who posted on Sunday night doesn't have any. So I always encourage students, don't do your responses and your post at the same time. Put your post in there as early as you can as a courtesy to your other classmates. But then wait until near the end of the posting period to come back and do your responses. That benefits everybody because then everybody's response gets a little activity and it seems friendlier. And also, it may be that something that's way more interesting to you gets posted later on. And so your response post will be way more intelligent and earn way more points if you wait to see what everybody else has put, rather than just struggling to think of something to say on a post that really didn't interest you. So that's kind of my suggestion on discussion posts.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on using Moodle? Okay. Okay, then I am going to go ahead and stop the recording.